Uncertainty continues to surround the case of jailed Canadian journalist Mohamed Fahmy. He's been in an Egyptian prison for more than 400 days. Efforts to win his release, even by Canada's former Foreign Affairs Minister, have had no success. He's scheduled to begin a retrial tomorrow. We wanted to bring you the very latest on the situation. His fiancée, Marwa Omara, is in Cairo and on the phone with me. Marwa, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for giving us some time as these hours tick toward the start of the retrial tomorrow. That's as far as we know. Tomorrow, Mohamed set to begin his retrial in court. To the best of your knowledge this morning, is that still going ahead?
As far as Mr. Harper didn't speak out about Mohamed's case, yes, it's going to start tomorrow. We're in shock. Mohamed is really shocked and disappointed that Mr. Harper didn't speak out and didn't call the Egyptian president and call for his Canadian citizen release. We're very disappointed that their colleague, Peter Grest, was released due to the Australian government efforts to release him.
Right.
And what the Australian government did to secure his release. And at the same time, the Canadian government cannot do anything till now, although all the assurances that the Canadian embassy and the Canadian government gave to us that Mohamed will be released and his release is imminent.
Exactly, that was the wording that we had. Let me
They told us it's imminent. I resigned from my job. I packed my bags based on their assurances. Until now, we feel we're lost and we were let down, and the Canadian government cannot do anything for their Canadian citizens.
Let me just jump in there, Marwa, because we're hearing your anger and frustration with Mr. Harper and with the Canadian government. We certainly heard that from Mohamed's brothers as well. We learned yesterday, though, here in Canada, from the Prime Minister's office, that Mr. Harper had communicated, that was the word they used, that he had, it was later clarified, sent letters on Mohamed's behalf. They didn't give any details on what was in the letter or when those letters were sent, but it was letters. So do you have any details at all on those, whether they had any effect?
No, of course, the letters will not have any effect and will not move the Egyptian government. Actually, we got from the Egyptian government feedback that they didn't feel that Canada wants Mohamed out. They felt this with the Australian, with his colleague Peter Grest, and with what all the Australian government efforts, but they didn't feel it from the Canadian government. Nobody was pressuring from the Canadian government on Mohamed's release. We don't believe that if we still have 1 day remaining to the trial, that a letter will make a difference. Mr. Harper has to interfere now and call the Egyptian president and call for Mohamed's release, for his Canadian citizens' release.
You launched a social media
from the ignorance.
Yes, you launched a social media campaign to that effect, Marwa. Hashtag Harper Call Egypt. That is getting a lot of attention. I'm wondering if you think that's having any impact.
We're trying everything we can. We're trying through the tools that we have. We cannot even reach Mr. Harper's office. Nobody called us from the External Affairs or from the Foreign Ministry or the Prime Minister office. Everybody's ignoring us. We don't know what's happening, what they are doing for Mohamed. We got to learn from our Egyptian lawyer here that the Canadian embassy were talking and discussing Mohamed's release when it was too imminent to middle-level and low-level officials in the Egyptian government. We kept calling them and begging them to interfere on higher level, and what we want is just justice. We want the same law that was applied on Peter, his Australian colleague, to be applied on Mohamed. This is the least right for a Canadian citizen to have, his freedom. We just want Mohamed to be free. He's a Canadian citizen. He doesn't have an Egyptian nationality anymore, and we're very disappointed. And we're wondering what Mr. Harper is doing when we have just 1 day remaining for the trial.
I can hear the desperation
and
and
I
the
really want everyone, all journalists, all Canadians to stand by us and to support our campaign. Harper, call Egypt, and to call for Mr. Harper to call the Egyptian president. Letters will not make a difference.
Let me Mara, let me just intervene. You mentioned a couple of points I just want people to understand in case they haven't followed. Mohamed did give up his Egyptian citizenship in order to be securing his release, and you referred to Australia. The Prime Minister, John Abbott, did intervene directly on behalf of the fellow Al Jazeera journalist, Peter Gresta, who is now home. You mentioned your Egyptian lawyers. The other lawyer involved in this, Marwa, is Amal Clooney, very high-profile international human rights lawyer. She was, last we heard, on her way to Egypt. She had requested a meeting with the Egyptian president. Has that happened?
I just want to clarify one point first. Mohamed did not give up his Egyptian nationality. He made a deal that the Canadian embassy was aware of to give up his Egyptian nationality and to get his freedom. This was a deal. He didn't ask for it. And the Canadian government were aware of this deal, and this is why we're very disappointed. It was very painful for Mohamed to give up his nationality, and he did it for us and for his freedom. This is for the nationality thing. For Ms. Amal Clooney, she sent a letter requesting a meeting with the Egyptian president and the Egyptian foreign affairs minister, and she did this after she failed the failure of the Canadian government to secure Mohamed's release. She's trying to do everything she can. She's waiting for a reply from the presidency, and she's scheduled to come to Egypt once she gets the permit.
Okay. I want to let you go. I have to let you go here, but I do want to just conclude by asking if you've had a chance to see your fiancé, if you've had a chance to see Mohamed this week, for example, and if so, how he is as he awaits the retrial tomorrow.
I saw him yesterday. He's still strong and fighting till the end. He's a victim of promises and over-promises that were not met by all parties, and he's very disappointed, and he doesn't understand why Mr. Harper cannot just call the Egyptian president and call for his Canadian citizens to be free. We want Mohamed to be free. And
you've made that...
there is nothing justifies what's happening. His colleague, Peter Grest, is on the beach and he's free. We want justice. All what we're asking for Mr. Harper to call the Egyptian president. This is the last day before the retrial. If the retrial started, it will take up to 3 or 4 months. This is so unfair, and Canada should not accept this. This is an embarrassment for Canada to let their citizen in prison, and they know very well that he's innocent, and he's a journalist doing his job.
Marwa, I thank you, and you've made your message, conveyed that so strongly in speaking with me this morning. I thank you. We're thinking of you in these final hours. We'll be in touch, of course, as this continues. That's Marwa Omara, the fiancé of Mohamed Fahmy, in Cairo, on the phone with me this morning. And again, the call, the social media site, #HarperCallEgypt. But to reiterate, the Prime Minister's office saying yesterday that Stephen Harper had in fact communicated with Egypt, had sent a letter to Egypt, not saying, though, the details of when or the exact contents in that letter. We're going to bring you full coverage on the retrial tomorrow. Our Middle Eastern correspondents, both Sasha Petrosic and Derek Stoffel, will be reporting from the Egyptian capital. We'll bring you the reaction in our country as well.